Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to the Powercat Podcast. It's Fitz and Gills answering some questions from Wabash Station, as we tend to do on this podcast. A little special treat at the end, but you'll have to stick around to find out. It's for our subscribers at Go Powercat. But we've culled some questions from Wabash Station from the subscribers about men's basketball, and we're going to just dive right in. Why mess around? Hold on. I just messed up here. Banners. Here we go. Bingo. We're going to start with El Camino Cat. Didn't mean to start with this one. Dang it. I put them out of order. If the focus is roster retention, does it make sense to play as long as we can in whatever tournament that will let us in? El Camino Cat asked that, and Gills, what he's getting at here is I wondered earlier on if they wouldn't just shut it down. Like, we're not going to NIT. Now I'm not so certain. What are your thoughts?
If you're going to get everybody bought in, top to bottom, everybody's giving 100% in a non-NCAA tournament game in the postseason, by all means, man, absolutely go out and do that. But if it's going to be a situation like last year where you probably know a good chunk of the roster is going to be departing, and Fitz, let's be blunt, certain guys probably didn't want to be there. We saw that with just the overall body language from that game against Iowa in the NIT. If you're going to get that again, don't even bother. But, if you plan on bringing back this group of players, by all means, man, go out and play. Yeah. Any extra basketball, I guess, that you can, just in that regard. Fitz, I think we've grown comfortable to just saying, hey, go focus on the portal. Anything postseason related interferes with that to an extent. That was kind of the last year's model that I echoed. But last year we knew they were going to be trying to go after a bunch of players. Now Tang's being outspoken about keeping guys. So if you want to keep that core, and that core wants to go try win a trophy, albeit not the NCAA tournament, but if they want to go play extra games and they truly want to be there, then I wouldn't have any problems with that. I understand, the NIT or the Crown in Vegas isn't the same at all. And I get it if you're frustrated with that. But just for this team's growth and progression, man, 100% go out and do that if the guys are going to be bought in and want to do it.
There was some question about what their roster retention would be. They wanted to bring some more guys back than they have, but now it looks like they're going to keep a chunk of guys. And I think there is some real benefit to playing in the postseason in some form, not necessarily the NIT. I kind of look at that college basketball crown, and I didn't realize that it doesn't even play until the week of the Final Four. That gives your coaches time to recruit, get in the portal, do those things. Your guys can have some, easy practices and conditioning leading up to playing. I don't feel like you put a ton of pressure on them. Just kind of let's go do our thing. I feel like maybe they'd go to Vegas is what I'm saying. I don't know about the NIT. I don't know if playing Vermont or someone really moves the needle for your team. And it sounds like the Crown is going to be some pretty good teams. The top schools from that don't make the NCAA from the Big 10 and Big East and Big 12 will be in the Crown, at least 2 from each conference. So if it could be more, it could be 4 from each conference. I don't know. And we'll just see how that all happens. But I feel like they might go that direction. We'll see. And of course we mean this because we also think they're going to win 5 in a row in Kansas City.
Well,
it didn't work out well for NC State's coach who got fired on Sunday. Went to the Final Four last year. Kevin Keatts went to the Final Four last year after running through the ACC bracket.
Wow.
From all 5 days, runs to the Final Four. 1 year later, he's fired. I guess the story is they didn't give him enough NIL money to retain or acquire players, and they just didn't have the roster.
That's shocking. I didn't know that. I have a question. Did you find that out on X?
I did.
The amount of things that I don't know about now when I'm not.
Well, that's why I want you on there.
Yeah. Well, my For You page works, but the algorithm is not to what I really care about. So.
Okay. You could always get on the Go Powercat account.
I don't want to put it in jeopardy, Fitz. Come on.
Oh, it wouldn't be in jeopardy. because I'd go tell Elon. I'd go like tear up some Tesla dealerships. Nobody would think of doing that. Here we go. Next question from Mountain Dew Cat 74. How do you gauge the temperature of the fan base? Does Coach Tang have the support of the fan base, or has he lost it? I think we judge too often. I certainly do, by social media reactions, X. I think he's fine with most of the fans. I think most of the fans like Jerome Tang, believe he can get it done. We're just in a weird time in college sports, but basketball, certainly, with the monumental impact the NIL and portal have had. I mean, it's been totally remade the entire structure of college basketball and had a greater effect certainly than football, because you can redo a roster. I don't think we advise it at this point, but it is possible when you come in like Jerome Tang did to redo a roster and have success. That's what's different now, Gills. But it doesn't necessarily mean that's a good plan going forward. You probably need to build a program, and that's what was discovered. And I think most fans realize that. And I want to keep this in mind. I'm 60, and I think a lot of fans from my generation, my age or older, tend to have more patience, because you look back through the history before social media and to some degree before talk radio erupted. You got 5 years as a coach. That's what you got typically. And you might have sucked all 5 years, but you got them. So there's a little bit of history there of being patient with coaches that go with our era, but the money at stake now is so much more. You have to make moves. Since you're off of X, let's take the benefit of that. What's your feeling on the temperature here, since you're not really seeing it reflected from that fan base?
Well, you look at the student section on Saturday against a ranked Iowa State team that you beat by 19 in Ames, and it's, apart from KU, that's probably K-State's biggest rival, correct, Fitz? And to see, I don't know, maybe 1,000 students, that's probably generous, probably less than that. Fake Patty's Day was on Saturday. They'd rather be out getting drunk. And I think, that's telling of maybe the pulse, the temperature, right, of that fan base. And, the donor, the alumni, chairback seats, those were all, pretty much filled. So, you've got, obviously, I'm not telling anybody how to be a fan, but you've got fans that are going to support you win or lose. You graduated from the university and you're there supporting through and through. And then you've got others that, when you're winning, sure, I'll go. And then when you're losing, I'll do something else. And so obviously winning and losing impacts a lot of that, but it's just been roller coasters, maybe not even the right word, but it's just been such a dramatic turn of events nonstop, it feels like, with this program. Now they want to go after, they got a couple of high school guys committed and want to build players. Last year, like we talked about, it was go and get the shiny objects in the portal and, this and that, and expect to win from here on out. And, everything has just been such a whirlwind. I think it's been a lot on the fans. I would totally understand that, but man, Fitz, not just on Saturday on Fake Patty's Day. Go back to the Arizona State game on the Sunday before, right? There wasn't a true home court advantage there, right? No. So it's not terrible, but I mean, there's definitely fans that when you're not winning, that they're not going to show as much interest. Fitz, look at our numbers on this YouTube channel, on our message boards. Winning is going to definitely generate a lot more buzz.
Yep. I mean, significantly more. I'd like to say a couple things though about it falling on Fake Patty's Day. I saw someone, I can't remember if it was on our board or on X, talking about Gene Taylor requesting that they not have a home game, which he's capable of doing. They won't necessarily do it. If there's a scheduling conflict, they would do it. Like, hey, we got a concert here on that Saturday. You can't have a game. But I don't know if K-State wants to go that direction. I actually thought with the 12:30 game, which was the earliest game in the Big 12 on Saturday, that they might have a chance of getting more students because it was earlier. But I think I had that totally wrong. I think when the game's at 3 or 5, students will come on a drinking break on Fake Patties to go to a game for a while and then leave. But also, the reality is there wasn't much at stake. And as a student, you could probably easily say, well, I would go if, they're fighting for top 8 seeding and, or top 4 seeding or something. If there's something more at stake here, they needed a win to get to the NCAA tournament, I'd probably delay my plans, but they're 15-15, party on. Yeah. I mean, I think that's what a lot of students said, but thank you to the students that were there.
Yeah. I'd have to go look here at the attendance and stuff, but this was my sophomore year. K-State played Baylor. I remember this on Fig.
Yeah, I remember having the green on the green.
Not
that didn't work well.
Sober, but I still went to the game.
Right.
I'd have to look at the attendance and the records of this year and all that stuff. But like I was convinced enough by what I was seeing on the court from that team, the overall vibes of that program. I still made an effort to go. A lot of fans, students this time around didn't, for right or wrong, for good or bad, for whatever reason, did not make that effort to go.
I would agree. Okay, let's try this one here. What's the formula for success next year and define success? He had his own definition. I thought it'd be kind of fun to do that ourselves. K-State EMA 1989 with that question. What is the formula for success in the 2025-26 season?
Formula for success? Well, first to define it, I would say NCAA tournament, man, because that gives you a chance to win it all. Even if
he said second round. I just think getting there.
Yeah, get in. Seriously,
Yep.
If you get in, anything can happen. So yeah, just be one of those 68 teams. But formula for success, man, I'm very much struggling to spin this in any different way than what we've been talking about, Fitz. I mean, these young guys, or not young guys, but anybody that returns, they have to get better and they have to improve. They have to grow. They have to develop in this program, in this locker room, on and off the court. And if you build kind of that foundation, you have more continuity, more chemistry on your team. Well, that's kind of the formula. It's got to pay off. Of course, everybody that comes back is going to get better and progress. How much is going to be what determines the success?
I think they need to involve the returning players a little bit more in the portal. They haven't had that typically in the past. They might have had a few, but if Max Jones can come back, I'd love to know what he and Hassan and Doug McDaniel think about the kids that come in. Meet them. Go eat with them in Nagyville. Get a vibe from them. Is this guy going to fit into this locker room? You see, I'm a person that picks up on these things. Do you get a bad vibe, good vibe from people? You've seen me do that. Like, nope, not hiring him.
Hired me, though.
Yep. Well, I sometimes get it wrong. But I think getting them more involved to understand, hey, this is our locker room. Give those players that ownership. You're in charge of the locker room. Do you think this dude fits in? And they've got to find the alpha. You can tell that even though David Gasson is the scoring alpha on this team, without Coleman Hawkins, even though he was the 4th leading scorer on the team, he's the alpha. He's the piece that they need to have. He's the connective tissue for them, and they've struggled without him. They played better with him until, well, they didn't play particularly well Saturday. But I think they would have just absolutely been run off the court Saturday without him. I think they would have been destroyed Saturday. So you're going to have to identify a dude, at least one dude, and a piece or two more. I'm hoping they only end up with about 3 portal guys. That depends on how many they bring back, how many they're actually looking to sign. Are these 2 guys that they have committed? Is that really all they're going to do? Are they going to continue to stay in that? There's talk about going overseas to find some help, which other programs have done. I think that's a good idea. So yeah, I think they can do that. I agree with your definition of success also. Just get to the tournament. Just be in the field. We'll be disappointed if you get knocked out in the first round. Don't be fooled. But it doesn't mean the whole season was a disaster. The ending didn't go as well. And we saw that from some really good teams under Bruce Weber. They had great seasons. You can't deny that. And then they exit in the first round. And it does put a kind of a sour flavor on the season, but you still can't say it was a bad season. I mean, you can't define it that way. They just didn't win that game.
You had as good of a chance as a 1 seed to go win 6 games or 7 if you're playing in the first 4, but you had a chance if you make it in that field of 68. Fitz. A couple things though before we move on. You mentioned kind of bringing these players out to Aggieville with recruit, like, hey, does, Tang asking the players, does this guy fit, right? I think throughout most of Big 12 play, I think the locker room has been good, and there's been a lot of like guys are playing for each other, not just themselves. But I mean, it is pretty clear and obvious that there was a lot of, growing pains just in terms of the basketball they were playing in December, November. But also, I mean, the locker room I don't think was as connected as it was. It was a group of newcomers that still was finding itself. So it's interesting. Just I wanted to add that this locker room is not 1,000,000%, on the whole season. It hasn't always been tremendously great. I think right now it's in a pretty good spot overall, but which is why Jerome Tang wants to keep this core and bring them back, of course. But one more thing I wanted to mention, Fitz. This doesn't necessarily fit like directly into this question, but I was looking earlier at the thread, a couple of questions about this, and Barry, Dean, and Cam all played 25 minutes or more per game in their freshman year. And I know Cam missed like 10, 15 games, but like they were on the court a lot. And David Castillo is at, I think, less than 10. I think Moby's at like 8. Like Taj hasn't played. And I know you want to win now, and fans want to win now, right? So you're kind of caught in a bind there. But how is David Castillo going to truly get better with, even if he doesn't have a leash and they're letting him, hey, you go out and play, you go out and hoop, man. It's just tough to get into that rhythm and build your confidence and truly get better. So if you want, I get it, man. Like, I'm not saying go bench David Gasson. Like, he's awesome. I'm not saying that at all, but it's tough to, feel great about the future of kind of the young guys, right? I'm not talking about CJ. I'm not talking about Brendan. I'm talking about, Moby, Taj, and Castillo, right? I think that's, and maybe by fall, who they're maybe planning on redshirt, and we'll see there. But it's tough to really develop and get better and improve and grow when you're not getting real minutes on the court. And that's something I wrote about a couple of weeks back. I think it was after the K-State lost against Utah in BYU, like NCAA tournament hopes were gone. Why not let the young guys go out and hoop? I mentioned it for a number of reasons, but probably the most important reason was the fact that they're getting such valuable, playing time and experience. So I get it. You want to win now. You can't keep everybody happy, right? Because if you tell, hey, people, we're playing for the future, well, people want to win now. So I get the conundrum that you're in, but, it'd be nice to see some of that young core group of talented players get on the court more.
I agree. I think if you're David Castillo, you go in that first half, you're going to get about 3 minutes, maybe 4, 5 if you're lucky. How do you not press? I might get one shot up. I better make it. I'm going to get it one chance to drive in the lane and dish. I better not turn it over. I just think it's a formula for making mistakes for some people. Some people respond better to that than others. But I feel like that is something he's going to have to change is finding a way to carve out time for his young guys. And it may not be now. It unfortunately, their non-conference, they were so bad, they had to leave the dudes on the court to win. But that's when you get up by 20 on someone, unload, get that bench cleared. Big 12, 20 points could become 6 very quickly. So you got to be careful. But yeah, I think there's opportunities for younger players and they need to take advantage of it. And at 15 on the roster with some true freshmen next year, he's going to have his hands full trying to make that happen. Okay. Our friend I like Pickles Cat. Is there any leverage to influence change in the basketball program aside from Jerome Tang's own choice? It's a great question. Who does have the pressure points on Coach Tang? And of course, Gene Taylor does. But Gene isn't a my way or the highway kind of guy. He manages, honestly, a lot like me. Look, you've been screwing up. Here's what I'd like to see from you. Here's what I'd like you to do. Here's my suggestions. Now, you pick the formula for success for you. And I know what you're saying. You're thinking, but Fitz, what if they don't take any of your suggestions? Well, my rope just got a lot shorter. If you fail and denied my suggestions, I don't have much tolerance for you. If you take all my suggestions and it still doesn't work, okay. Okay, there's more here. Let's work on this. But boy, if you turn for me on that and say, nah, I got all the answers, and you don't, you're not going to be around, which is a whole nother question to get into. But I also think in this NIL era, the big donors have something to say. Because if they say, no, we're done paying, and which apparently they haven't, then Jerome Tang is done. You got to have some money to get some players. And I'm under the impression that he does still, which honestly, I'm very impressed. That's really loyal donors. They didn't get wrapped up in their own ego that their money was wasted this year. They're going to look ahead to the program and keep supporting it. But I don't know. I think there will be some changes. I think there'll be some coaching changes. I think there'll be some staff changes. I think there might be system changes. But I think most of those decisions are going to be Jerome Tang's.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to hope and think that some, basketball guru would come in as a coach on this coaching staff and change things up. And, that would probably be top of the list, right? But, I mean, Fitz, you have to be real here. Why would an elite, coach want to come to this program that's missed the NCAA tournament 2 seasons in a row, right? So it's going to be tough to get somebody like that here. If that's not on the table and there's no changes made as far as the coaching staff goes, then I would think that you have a good hard look at the offense and this 5-out system where there's just a lot of free flow, guys going out and making plays. That worked, or that would have worked, with Marquise and Keontae. It hasn't
worked.
Fitz, K-State has a losing record right now. So there's a lot of issues top to bottom. I mean, there's so much things we can get into, but K-State's been outscored. They haven't been able to put up enough points in more games, in more than half of their games, right? So, I mean, I don't know how you go about that because it's a challenge to get a rocket scientist, an offensive rocket scientist that you might want to bring in. And maybe Tang doesn't want to bring anybody else and he believes he has the best staff in America. Well, I mean, you can't keep doing the same thing offensively over and over again. And there's so many other things that we could talk about, Fitz. But I think that the offense, you've got to have, Marquise and Keontae and Naquan had a little chance with the NBA, right? Like 3 NBA players were on that team. So it's interesting, man. It's really interesting.
I agree. We'll see how it shakes out, but you know me, I just want them to go find a true X's and O's person that can help. And I think they've coached less aggressively from the sideline in the last 2 years they did the first year, because I remember that first year noting that Kansas State suddenly was the team scoring off of inbound passes at a high rate. Jerome Tang was getting his team 2 points here, 2 points there. Something Bill Self does exceptionally well is when I can influence the scoreboard coming out of a break, I'm going to try to do that. I don't feel like this team's done that the last 2 years, and maybe it's just as simple as talent, but I also feel like they haven't been attempting to get those immediate points off of inbounds plays as much as they did that first season. Okay, one final one here on the regular podcast, highlighting just a little teaser there, what I'm talking about. Who takes the Big 12 Men's Tournament Championship? Contra Cat wants to know, who do you got winning this thing in Kansas City next week? K-State does play Tuesday, 6 p.m. against Arizona State. Winner advances to a Wednesday game with number 7 Baylor, 7th-seeded Baylor at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. So that's Kansas State's course, but who's going to follow their course all the way through the championship?
I mean, I think Houston, spoiler alert, I think Houston is like my favorite just to win it all in terms of March Madness. But if you want, like, if you're a sports bettor, you want a little bang for your buck here, I think Iowa State, I think last I checked was like plus 700 or plus 800. I mean, if you've ever watched the Big 12 tournament or been there, you know that it's just a different beast for Cyclones and the Cyclone fans. So that's a very value. There's a lot of value there with Iowa State, and they, TJ Otzelberger, I felt, pretty optimistic just about that trajectory of that team after the way they handled Kansas State. Hearing them in the post-game presser, if there's a team that can kind of get hot, I think Iowa State can do it. I still think Houston's the best team without a doubt, but I mean the Cougars, if you've kind of got a 1 seed locked up, or you think you have a 1 seed locked up, well, Iowa State, the fans there, they're just different, right? They're just different. So I think Iowa State's my best bet, but Houston's the safe choice.
I'm going to go with Texas Tech.
Really?
I think
Raiders, huh?
No, I don't think that happens. But yeah, let's see where that all shakes out, because this is going to be a very interesting one for a couple reasons. Kansas is down on the 7 line. I mean, that's just kind of weird, or 6 line, somewhere in there. They don't have that first day bye, do they? Or that double bye is what I'm trying to say. But so you've got Houston and Tech and Arizona, and you got some different players here that could get involved, and I'm kind of intrigued to watch this. It's going to be the first one post-pandemic that or pre-pandemic I haven't gone to. You're in charge, man. You got to take care of stuff.
You didn't go last year?
I did go last year. I thought I did.
I don't know. I thought that was me and Zach. I didn't think you went last year.
Oh, I think you're right. You're
getting old, man.
I'm getting old. You can't remember where you've been. 1 year later, I have no idea. We've got one more question. I'm going to pop it up here, but we're not answering it. This is going to be for a VIP podcast, the One Question Podcast. And you're like, oh, it's just another question. We're going to get into this. As soon as we stop recording this, we're going to record this. Put yourself in Gene Taylor's Nikes. I love that, by the way. What advice do you have for Jerome Tang? That's from our longtime poster, Exhausted Nihilist. But you don't get to hear that answer, because we're done with this free version of the podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to GoPowercat.com. A lot more than an extra podcast answer behind the paywall. And I think you'll enjoy it. So get on over there and take care of it. But Gills, we got one more question to answer. We better go do it.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.